I woke up to a miracle today. Triggers fade as I find my way. No judgment to lead astray. In this peaceful state I'll stay.
Welcome to A Course in Miracles and Practice. We're here exploring the workbook lessons and how they apply in, our daily experience.
And today our focus is Lesson 309, which carries the title, I Will Not Fear to Look Within Today.
This lesson goes right to the heart of something fundamental, doesn't it? It addresses that pervasive fear, that deep-seated belief that looking inwards is dangerous, that will uncover something awful.
Exactly. It's the idea that if we really quiet down and look past all the surface chatter, we're going to find this core of darkness or guilt that's just unbearable.
But the Course, and this lesson specifically, offers a completely different perspective. It tells us that what's truly inside is something entirely different from what the ego predicts.
It promises a discovery that actually leads to peace, not terror.
Before we discuss it further, let's read the lesson itself.
Lesson 309, I will not fear to look within today.
Within me is eternal innocence, because it is God's will that it be there forever and forever. I, his son, whose will is limitless as is his own, can will no change in this. For to deny my Father's will is to deny my own. To look within is but to find my will as God created it and as it is. I fear to look within because I think I made another will that is not true and made it real. Yet it has no effects. Within me is the holiness of God. Within me is the memory of him.
The step I take today, my Father, is my sure release from idle dreams of sin. Your altar stands serene and undefiled. It is the holy altar to myself, and there I find my true identity.
So the lesson starts by naming this common human behavior, this almost constant avoidance of looking within.
It's something we all engage in, often without even realizing it. We keep ourselves busy, focused outward, distracted by the world.
There's always something else to do, something to think about, some problem out there that needs solving. He keeps our attention firmly away from our inner landscape.
And underneath all that activity, all that external focus, the lesson says there's fear. A fear of finding guilt, of finding darkness, of confronting our own perceived shame.
It pinpoints the origin of this fear very precisely. It says, I fear to look within because I think I made another will that is not true and made it real.
That one sentence holds the entire ego thought system in summary, really. The belief that we separated, created a will apart from God's will, and that this separate will is now who we are, something flawed, guilty, and dangerous.
We're afraid to encounter this thing we believe we made, this false self with its own dark agenda that seems to contradict everything loving and peaceful.
But then the lesson delivers this incredibly liberating statement, yet it has no effects.
No effects. That's such a crucial declaration. It means that this other will, this thing we fear so much, is ultimately unreal. It's a thought, an idea we entertain, but it lacks the power to change reality.
It didn't actually create anything lasting. It didn't overwrite our true nature. Its apparent effects are part of the illusion we're choosing to believe in.
This connects back to the Course's teaching about the two wills, doesn't it? The idea that we think we have a will that opposes God, but in reality, there's only one will.
Our true will is unified with God's will. It's limitless. Just as God's will is limitless, it desires only peace, love, extension, the very things God wills.
As the lesson says, I, his son, whose will is limitless as is his own, can will no change in this. Our actual fundamental will cannot desire separation or sin or guilt because that's contrary to its nature, which is identical to God's.
So, denying God's will, which is perfect peace and innocence for us, is actually denying our own deepest will. The fear comes from mistaking the ego's flimsy, fictitious will for our own.
To look within, then, isn't about confronting a monster. It's about finding our true will, the one God created, which is already there, exactly as it always has been, pure and innocent.
Which brings us to that central promise. Within me is eternal innocence.
Because it is God's will that it be there forever and forever. This is the bedrock. Our innocence isn't conditional. It isn't something we earn or lose based on behavior.
It's guaranteed by God's unchanging will. What God creates is eternal. Since he created us innocent, that innocence remains untouched by time or anything that seems to happen within the dream of separation.
This requires a significant shift in understanding, especially differentiating innocence from behavior. We tend to equate innocence with never making mistakes.
Right. And the Course is very clear that mistakes, poor choices, regrettable actions, these happen within the illusion, within the dream of separation. They are errors in perception.
They seem very real and have consequences within that dream context, absolutely, but they do not and cannot alter the fundamental reality of our being as God created us.
Our true self, the Christ in us, remains immaculate. It stands apart from the narrative of sin and guilt that the ego spins around our experiences in the world. Innocence is our being, not our track record.
The phrase forever and forever really underscores this. It's not innocence until further notice or if you behave. It's permanent, absolute.
And then it connects this directly to God's presence. Within me is the holiness of God. It's not just that we are holy, it's that the very holiness of God resides within us.
It's a staggering thought.
Yeah.
It means our core reality is inseparable from God's own being.
So when feelings of guilt or shame or unworthiness arise, the Course identifies them as signals. Signals that we are listening to the ego, believing its interpretation of who we are based on illusory actions.
The Holy Spirit's voice, in contrast, always reminds us of this underlying, unchanging holiness. It invites us to look past the ego's narrative to the truth.
And that's the practice for today, accepting that invitation without fear, which leads us to consider what looking within actually entails in the context of the Course.
It's important to clarify this because it's not necessarily what conventional psychology might mean by introspection. It's not about meticulously analyzing every thought or dredging up past traumas to dissect them.
No, because doing that often just makes the ego story seem more real and significant. Analyzing guilt can inadvertently reinforce the belief in guilt.
Instead, looking within, in the Course's sense, seems to be more about achieving a state of quietness. It's about being willing to let the ego's constant stream of thoughts, judgments, and fears flow by without engagement.
It's finding the stillness behind the noise, moving attention away from the ego's chaotic content and resting in the underlying presence, the quiet center where our true self resides. And the lesson describes the result of taking this step. The step I take today, my Father, is my sure release from idle dreams of sin.
Sure release.
Yeah.
It's guaranteed. Why? Because when we look with the intention of finding innocence, guided by the Holy Spirit, that's what we will find. We find what was always there.
This requires forgiveness, though. Not forgiveness for specific acts in the past, necessarily, but forgiveness for the belief that those idle dreams of sin actually define us or have the power to stain our true nature.
It's releasing the mistaken idea that the separate will had any real effect, forgiving ourselves for believing in the power of illusion.
When we look within with this purpose, seeking innocence, seeking the Christ, we bypass the ego's defenses and find the truth the lesson promises.
And this process is framed as remembrance. Within me is the memory of Him. It suggests we haven't truly lost our connection or our innocence. We've just temporarily forgotten.
Looking within is the way we access that dormant memory, the memory of our identity in God.
The practice itself becomes the proof. Each time you genuinely attempt to look past the fear and the ego noise, you don't find the terrible darkness you expected. You find a flicker, or maybe even a steady glow of peace, of holiness.
That direct experience chips away at the fear and reinforces the lesson's truth. It shows you that the promise is real.
The lesson concludes with this beautiful, powerful image. Your altar stands serene and undefiled.
That image of the altar is so comforting. It represents the sacred space within us, the point of contact with God, the core of our being.
And the words used to describe it, serene and undefiled, are deeply significant. Serene implies a deep, unshakable peace, a tranquility that the world's chaos cannot touch.
It's a quietness that is inherent to our true nature, always present beneath the surface turmoil.
And undefiled. That speaks directly to the fear of guilt and sin. It means this inner sanctuary, this holy place, has remained absolutely pure, untouched, unstained by anything we think we've done or failed to do.
No mistake, no judgment, no attack thought, no perceived sin from the dream has ever contaminated this core reality. It remains perfectly holy.
This altar is the constant, unchanging truth about us, regardless of what storms seem to be raging in our minds or lives.
And it's precisely there at this undefiled altar that we find who we really are. It is the holy altar to myself, and there I find my true identity.
This is where we look past the ego's version of identity, the one based on our personal history, our body, our roles, our flaws, and discover the identity God gave us.
An identity that is one with Christ, holy, innocent, eternal, and shared by all.
And this act of finding our true identity isn't just a personal victory. The Course always brings it back to the collective, to the sonship.
Recognizing your own innocence isn't a solitary act, because separation itself is the core illusion maintained by the belief in sin and guilt. Every time one mind lets go of that belief, it contributes to the undoing of separation for everyone.
When you look within and find that undefiled altar in yourself, you are, in essence, recognizing it in your brother as well. Because at that level, there is no difference. We share that same holy self.
So, choosing to practice this lesson, choosing to look within without fear, is an act of healing not just for yourself, but for the entire sonship. You are actively participating in the atonement.
Every moment you choose innocence over guilt, peace over conflict, you strengthen that recognition in the collective mind.
And the more you practice, the less frightening it becomes. The fear was based on a false premise, the belief in a powerful, guilty self. As you repeatedly find holiness instead, the fear naturally diminishes.
You begin to trust the presence of God within you more than you trust the ego's fearful predictions.
So, to summarize our exploration of Lesson 309, the invitation is clear: look within today and do so without fear.
Trust that what resides there is not the darkness the ego projects, but your own eternal, unchangeable innocence.
So here's a final thought to consider. Given that the Course promises your eternal innocence and the holiness of God reside within you, what purpose does the fear of looking within actually serve, except to maintain the illusion of separation? What are you truly protecting yourself from by looking away?
Let the day's lesson be your guide. I will not fear to look within today.
Hold on to the affirmation. What's within me is not what I fear. My innocence is eternal and untouched. It is guaranteed by God.
If you'd like to share your experiences with this lesson or connect with us, you can reach us via email at acim@theworldharmonyproject.org.
Or find us on social media under the World Harmony Project. Thank you for joining us in this practice.